Coming up on this week of FRC Recap, we're ready to react to week 2 of Rapid React. We have 24 regional district events and regionals that our correspondents will provide their recap and breakdowns for, plus discussion from each of our regions. Get ready for FRC Recap.
Your destination for first content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now, supported by Stryker Careers. If you're a college student or recent graduate looking for an incredible internship, take a look at Stryker. Stryker provides a housing stipend, great pay, and an opportunity to work with state-of-the-art medical technology equipment. Discover why so many First alumni are coming to Stryker for their internship or career at careers.stryker.com. Competition season is here. Head on over to thebluelions.com to catch all the events each week. Don't forget to submit your clips of the week to discord.gg/firstupdatesnow. Vote in the FRC Top 25 and play in our free fantasy pick'em. Catch fun shows live on Mondays and Tuesdays at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow.
Welcome to FRC Recap for Week 2. I'm your host, Steve Londo. This week, Fun Correspondents will provide you with recaps of our 24 events broken down into the 6 regions that the action took place in: U.S. Northeast, U.S. Southeast, First in Michigan, U.S. South, International, and U.S. West. Plus, we'll provide a short discussion topic relevant to that region. If you're watching live or on YouTube, put in the comments which events have your attention or anything extra that went down in the events that you were at this week. Also, if you're watching live, we do have a giveaway from our friends at ThriftyBot. We'll have details on that giveaway later on in the show. Our first region for tonight is our U.S. Northeast region, where we had 4 events that took place, including the New England District Pine Tree event, New England District Waterbury event, FMA District Mount Olive event, and the Finger Lakes Regional. Our featured event this week comes from New England, and let's bring on Connor to talk more about what went down at the Northeast District Pine Tree event. And also, he's covering the Northeast District Waterbury event. Connor, good to see you again. How things shake out up in New England this week?
Yeah, so we're going to begin region recap tonight with a roller coaster of an event, the Pine Tree District event, or as some people like to call it, Water Country. Last week, during the preview, I mentioned that there were rumors that a team was dropping out. That was true, 25-23 Tech Storm from Vermont. However, 34-67 Wyndham Windup and 68-95 Mechanical Madness 4H came to the rescue and joined the fight just days before load-in. We had 26 teams who duked it out over 52 qualification matches, and the top seed changed a few times throughout the weekend, but at the end of it all, it was 63-29, the Bucks Wrath, who would seed first. They picked up the number 3 seed, 34-67 Wyndham Windup, and rounded out the alliance with the number 19 seed, 79-07 Spartan Robotics. In the quarterfinal matches, they met the number 8 seed of 61-53 Blue Crew, 18-31 Screaming Eagles, and 49-06 The Collective. Here we got to see 63-29 and 34-67 perfect their double traversal climbs and dominating high goal scoring. They ended up beating the 8 seed in 2 matches with a score of 82-37 and 85-52. Moving on to the semis, our number 1 seed faced off against the number 4 seed of 58 the Riot Crew, 56-87 the Outliers, and 26-48 Infinite Loop. At the end of the first match, real-time score showed both alliances tied, but remember folks, the climbs aren't counted until after the match. The number 1 seed won the match narrowly by 9 points, 72-63. In the second match, the number 4 seed subbed out 26-48 for 52-65 Radical Impact for reasons unknown. Red ended up winning the second match 88-69 and punched their ticket to the finals. And the finals, regardless of what alliance you're rooting for, even if your team wasn't playing, it hurt. Our number 1 seed faced the number 3 seed of 58-13 Morpheus, 45-64 Orange Chaos, and 80-23 LRTC 80-23. The first match was an absolute nail-biter. Back and forth throughout the whole match. The number 3 seed just barely won the first match, 91-88. The second match is where it hurt. It was a slugfest, one of the tightest matches we've seen all year throughout FRC. Unfortunately, with 97 seconds left of the match, 34-67 ended up tipping 58-13, giving their alliance a red card, and that put the nail in the coffin. You hate to see events won like that, but sometimes that's how it goes, and that's how this story ends. Huge congrats to our number 3 seed, especially to 5813 Morpheus, who after so many silver medals finally broke through for that elusive first banner. Congrats to Team 166 Chop Shop for winning their 4th Engineering Inspiration, and to 6153 Blue Crew for winning their first ever Chairman's Award. Shifting gears to the opposite side of New England, we find ourselves at the Waterbury District event. This event featured 40 teams from 3 states. At the end of 80 qualification matches, it was none other than 176 Aces High who seed first. They would select the number 5 seed 177 Bobcat Robotics and 28 seed 8889 Wilby. They made it look easy in the quarters and semis and found themselves in the finals facing off against the number 2 seed of 230 the Galehawks, 8085 Mojo, and 3654 Tech Tigers. The number 1 seed ended up winning 2 matches, 104-49 and 74-61, and took home the blue banners. Congratulations to 1071 Team Max for winning Engineering Inspiration, and to 3654 Tech Tigers for winning Chairman's Award. Steve, back to you.
Thanks, Connor. Next up, we have Justin, who's bringing us the action from the FMA District Mount Olive event. Justin, what happened at the Mount Olive event this weekend?
This weekend's first Mid-Atlantic District event, known as the Mount Olive event, was hosted by Team 11 Mort at their namesake high school in Mount Olive, New Jersey. It was attended by 31 teams from the Garden State, as well as 6 from Pennsylvania. It consisted of 2 rookies and a great number of long-term veterans. Securing the top spot at the end of qualifications would be 2590, who picked the third-ranked 3142 and 4652. Ranked second was 1257, who picked ninth place 219 and 4361. Both alliances would make it past the quarterfinals, but this set of playoffs was a story of upsets. The number 6 alliance and number 5 alliances both beat out their opponents to face the number 2 and number 1 alliances, respectively. The first seeded alliance would win the semis, but the number 2 would fall to the number 6, setting up a chance for yet another upset. The 6th seed was made up of 10th ranked 222, 1403, and 1811. 222's improved every bot design was lightning fast and capable of scoring and playing defense at the same time, and they quickly outscored the number 1 alliance. To cap it off, their alliance partners would both manage to hang on the midbar, while only 4652 was able to do so on the red side. The number 1 alliance would call in 8771 to sub in for 3142 for the finals match number 2, but it would make little difference, and the number 6 alliance completed the upset. Congrats to winners 222 Tigertrons, 1403 Cougar Robotics, and 1811 Fresh. District chairmans went to 102 the Gearheads, and 2590 Nemesis took home Engineering Inspiration to go with their finals medals.
Thanks, Justin. Next, we bring in Tyler, who's at the Finger Lakes Regional in Rochester, New York. Tyler, how did Finger Lakes go?
The Finger Lakes Regional featured 37 teams coming in from 4 different states, including, to my surprise, 1 team coming in from Wisconsin, in what was a stacked event of veteran teams, including 48, 191, 340, 639, 694, 870, 1405, 1507, 1511, 1787, 3015, and 3324, with absolutely no rookies attending this event. 3015 Ranger Robotics dominated most of day 1 with 7 straight victories, but towards the end of the day started having heavy defense put on them, and they would lose their last 4 out of 5 matches, paving the way for 1787 Flying Circuits, who won all their last final matches to take the number 1 seed. They would go on to pick 340 Gur, who had vastly improved from day 1 into day 2 with a quick sword drive and reliable shooter from afar, and would finish up their alliance with 578 Red Raider Robotics. The number 1 alliance did have a stumble, losing their second semifinal match, and would replace 578 with 2228 Cougar Tech, and they would face 694, 3015, and 3799 in the finals, the number 2 seed. 3799 Electric Fire would receive a yellow card for the number 2 alliance in the quarterfinal match, and this is where the real story starts to begin. Finals match 1 was a nail-biter, with Red squeaking out a win 89-85, with 1 foul making the difference. Finals 2 was started all close, with Red taking a 4-point lead and Taliot being filled with defense against 1787 and 3015 respectively. At 60 seconds, the score would be separated by just 2 points as lead changes kept going back and forth. But at 40 seconds, everything changed. 3015, in an attempt to acquire more cargo, went across the field and hit the Alliance Station wall and popped up onto the corner of 340, tripping their breaker and disabling them. The rest of the match looked like it would go to blue after hanger points, but after a very long referee discussion, a yellow card was issued at 30-15, and the previous yellow of the Alliance in the quarterfinals would come back to haunt them, as this would be their second yellow card in the playoffs, resulting in a red card and a DQ, triggering the number 1 Alliance event victory. Never the way you want to see things work out in the end, but it was exciting and very tense, no doubt. Congrats to the number 1 Alliance for the win. Chairman's Award would go to 49-30 Electric Mayhem. Double silver Kling Bling going out to 30-15 Ranger Robotics with the Engineering Inspiration and Finalist Award. You know, I personally attended this event. It was a blast to see. Very well ran event, and great to see so many friends that I haven't talked to for so long. Meet some new friends, meet some new fans as well too, and look forward to some great videos coming out from Finger Lakes Regional soon as well.
Thanks, Tyler. Let's bring Connor and Justin back in for our discussion topic. And I've got a good discussion for us for this week. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Well, I guess first, before the discussion, I'm curious, what event do you have your eye on next week in the Northeast? And do you have any specific teams that stand out?
Yeah, so I am really looking at North Shore, not only because I will be emceeing the event, but there are some really awesome teams. So like we're going to see Pine Tree winners, 58-13 Morpheus is going to be back there. I'm really looking forward to see what 1073 has, the Force team, as you all know from their dominating defense on Einstein in 2019. But I've seen some pictures and videos of the robot, and this is a winner this year for sure. There's some other heavy hitters, but those are just two to ramble off the top of my head.
Okay, let's move into our discussion breakdown for this week's discussion. What are your guys' thoughts on the cargo RP? Do you think the first needs to make any adjustments? Connor, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I fully expect first to up the number of cargo required for the cargo ranking point. I know for the event that I was at this past weekend, Pine Tree, the cargo ranking point was achieved 40.38% of the time, which is pretty big for getting an RP like that in week 2. You know, ranking points are meant to be hard, and I fully expect first to change that. And the last time we saw a threshold changed for ranking points was, I believe it was 2016. If anyone wants to correct me, or if anyone in chat wants to say that, please do. Between week 7 and the World Championship, the threshold went from 8 to 10. And the currently for Rapid React, sponsored by the Bone Company, is currently at 20. I fully expect it to go up to probably 30 or 35 for Houston, but my solid guess is probably 30.
Wow, that seems to be a pretty big jump. Justin, what do you think?
See, I'm kind of on the opposite end. I mostly cover the Southeast, and down here we're not seeing as many of the ranking points coming from cargo. I was covering the North Carolina event this weekend, and most of the extra ranking points were coming from Haining rather than cargo. I think there was only 1 or 2 matches during qualifications that really ended up getting the cargo ranking point. So I could see it jumping, because if it's a more widespread thing than just in the Southeast, you know, if the cargo's getting more ranking points, I can see him up in it, but I don't know if it's going to be up to 30. That's crazy.
It could. I mean, there's not a lot. Well, because like that second pick at regionals, it doesn't automatically qualify. You're going to see a lot more heavy hitter teams at champs this year, especially where it's just one champ. So it could happen, but we'll find out.
I would hope for like a middle ground, like 25, 30.
Wow. I'd settle for that. Yeah, for sure.
And that's a good point about only one champs and having maybe a little bit higher caliber of team overall in the field. That's a good point. I guess we'll stand by and watch. And thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Our next region of the night is our U.S. Southeast region. There were 6 events taking place, including the Electric City Regional, FNC District ECU event, the Orlando Regional, PCH District Dalton event, and 2 days of events in the CHS District at the Greater DC event number 2. Our featured event this week comes from South Carolina, and Justin is back with the recap of our featured event, the Electric City Regional and FNC District ECU event. Justin, what you got for us?
Well, at the inaugural Electric City Regional this weekend, you could feel the pressure when you stepped into the pits. Veteran teams full of rookie members struggling to pass tech, things that worked at home but not on the field, and of course the planning committee running their first regional ever. But it proved to be one of the most fun, spirited, and exciting events ever held in the state. As we went to Alliance Selection's 4020 Cyber Tribe, to the surprise of many, selected the 4th-ranked 4265 Secret City Wildbots over the 3rd-ranked 4451 Robots Garage. 2nd-ranked 364 Team Fusion would scoop them up for the 2nd Alliance instead. 5727 Omegabytes would then move up to the 3rd seed, selecting 1051, the Marion County 1st Robotics team, formerly known as the Technical Terminators. Selections would go on with few surprises, and it came back to the 2nd pick for the top alliance. A slight hush fell over the crowd when they selected 1293, the Panda Maniacs, to join them. The bewilderment was because, although this team's defensive capabilities were in fact terrifying, there are many teams still available who could climb and score cargo. With this decision, Panda out for the number 1 alliance? Well, they easily moved through quarters. I'm sorry, Tyler, you got me there. Well, they easily moved through quarters and semis with 4020's 5-ball auto, 4265's fast scoring, and the Pandas playing defense and running picks. 4020 would traverse every match, and 4265 would continue shooting. The 2nd alliance didn't struggle in quarters, but when it came to semis, they hit a rough patch. They ran away with their first semifinal, but catastrophe struck as late in the same match, their 3rd partner, 3824 HVA Robotics, suffered CAN bus issues and lost all of their drive. The 2nd alliance would elect not to use their backup card just yet, though, in hopes of getting the robot fixed. The 3rd-ranked alliance, however, had to call in 2080 Robotics as backup for the 2nd match. This wouldn't make a huge difference, as 2080 sat idle for most of the match. The Megabytes and 1051 would keep the cargo score close, and their consistent climbs won them the match. The 3rd semifinal saw 3824 return to the field, but they would have issues yet again. 4451 and 364 outpaced the Blue Alliance in cargo points, and it would come down to the climb once again. Things very suddenly started looking bad for the Red Alliance, as for some reason 4451 was unable to get their 2nd stage climbers onto the mid-bar in order to traverse. This was a nail-biter, and it truly came down to the wire. The match was decided by 1 point, with Red coming out on top. Moving into the finals, the 2nd-seeded alliance finally elected to use their backup card and called in 4533, Wando Advanced Robotics. Many expected the number 1 alliance to run away with it, and after the first final, it seemed that's how it would go, but the number 2 seed wasn't done yet. In final number 2, Blue made a few extra shots in auto and took an early lead. At this point, the Panda Maniacs shifted from running picks to running full defense on 364, keeping the cargo score extremely close. In the last 30 seconds, Blue had the lead 58-50 as 4451 and 4020 began traversing on opposite sides of the field. The number 1 alliance showed their Achilles heel as 3 blue robots attempted to climb, and only 2 red robots were even capable. Blue had a traversal and a low bar, while 4020 only managed to make it to the high bar before the match ended. This meant that the number 2 alliance won the match by 11 points. On to the final tiebreaker. On Red Alliance, you have 4020 looking to make a three-peat, the Panda Maniacs with an empty trophy case looking to finally add something to it after 19 years. On Blue Alliance, you have 4451, one of the strongest teams in the state, and a backup team hoping to stand tall with the mighty. Blue Alliance would take another early lead in auto, 30-22, but Red would quickly close that gap. Red Alliance just didn't miss shots and began to pull ahead. The endgame buzzer, the score was 64 Red, 51 Blue, 40-20 and 44-51 again beginning the traversals, and while 42-65 and 364 desperately tried to outscore each other. Wanda would join 44-51 by climbing on the mid-bar. However, 42-65 scoring proved to be too much for the 2nd alliance, and the number 1 seed came out on top, 85-72. The final point difference was truly only 1 point had it not been for 12 penalty points from the Blue Alliance. Congrats to Alliance Captain 4020 Cyber Tribe on their three-peat in South Carolina, as well as Secret City Wildbots, who take home the double claim blame winning Chairman's Award. And of course, to everyone's favorite underdogs, 1293, the Panda Maniacs. It's finally time to open up that trophy case. Engineering and Inspiration Award was won by 3489 Category 5, and the Rookie All-Star, as well as highest rookie seed, goes to 8575, the Due Westerners. Look for them to be an elite team in the state in a few years. Heading a few hours northeast on I-85 and I-840 from Anderson, this weekend's first North Carolina district event was held in East Carolina University. 34 teams from across the state came to compete, 5 of which were rookies. A strange trend at this event was the number of disqualifications that happened. There were 7 that happened over the course of the qualification matches. Following that, Madness 6,500 would secure the top rank. They would invite 47.95 and 51.60 to join them. 45.61 was ranked second and would take 32.29 and rookies 87.46 along with them. Both made their ways to finals, but not without a fight, as they would both drop a match in the semifinals, including the number 1 alliance facing a DQ for their first semifinal. The first final would essentially be 1-on-2, as one blue robot was dead and the defense bots from both alliances were trying to keep each other off of their alliance partners. Number 1 would win the first match with more cargo and hangar points. The Blue Alliance wisely noted the low scores of these matches and took more time to ensure they could traverse and would be at the top before the 30-second buzzer in the second match. This would make a huge difference, giving the number 2 the win by 1 point, taking it to a third and final match. This third match would go the same way, with 45.61 once again traversing early and winning the whole event by 1 point. Congrats to winners 45.61, Terabytes, who also took home Engineering Inspiration, as well as their alliance partners 32.29, Optimus Prime, and rookies 87.46, the Knights. And finally taking home District Chairman's award was 55.11, Cortex Robotics.
Thanks, Justin. Next up, let's bring in Brian, who's breaking down the Orlando Regional and the PCH District Dalton events. Brian, tell us about what happened at these events.
So, looking down at a very thunderous Orlando Regional, we find 56 teams that fought for the top spot. One of those teams being the still undefeated 179 Children of the Swamp, seating first with a 9-0 win-loss record and an average 3.66 RP. Going into alliance selections, they go on to take the +1 of the second-ranked team 180 Spam, who is also undefeated as their first pick, and 70-72 Ogre from Alabama to round off this alliance. They showed off an amazing show in quarters with scores heading into the triple digits. And even in the semifinals, showing off how prowess this number 1 seed alliance was. 180 had fallen over in the first match against the 5th seed alliance of 54.72, the Wild Stallions 386 Voltage and 4118 Roaring Riptide. And they still won 2v3 with 70-72 playing defense 72-43. They go through they go through semis and into the finals to face the 3rd seed alliance of 39-37 Breakaway, 23-83 the Ninjaneers, and 31-64 the Stealth Tigers. The matches were much closer, with a lot of defense getting played on both sides, and 179 actually failing to complete their amazing traversal climb. However, the number 1 seed alliance still remained triumphant. Congrats to Team 179, 180, and 70-72, who all have a bid to Worlds, thanks to 179 generating the wild card. Also, big congrats to 39-37 Breakaway for Engineering Inspiration win, and 1156 Under Control for the Chairman's Award win. Looking on over, we have the Peachtree District event, which began their Rapid React season with the Dalton event in Dalton, Georgia this weekend. With 33 teams, about half of the district was at the event, and there were quite a few teams ready to make a name for themselves. At the end of qualifications, the number 1 seed was 1771 North Gwinnett Robotics, who held an undefeated record of 11-0 and an average of 3.27 RP. They would first select the number 2 ranked seed of undefeated rookie sensation 8736 the Mechanisms, then complete their alliance with 15th ranked 6712 the Mountaineers. The number 1 seed had a very dominant quarterfinals performance, but had their semifinals go to 3 very close matches with the number 4 seed of 6829 Ignite Robotics, 1746 Auto, and 5332 Toaster Tech. But ultimately, the number 1 seed was still victorious. Finals would be against the number 2 seed of 6705 Wildcat 5E, 6340 the Marist Manatees, and 8866 Innovation Robotics. Despite the number 2 seed's best efforts, they could not stop the number 1 seed from achieving victory. Looking forward of the 24 teams in elims, 20 of them will compete next week at a Carlton event, and it will be interesting to see how that event shapes up with so much overlap. But once again, we got to give a big congratulations to Team 1771, 8736, and 6712. Congratulations are also in order for 8866 for the Rookie All-Star, 5900 Career Blazer Robotics, the Fighting Mongooses for their Engineering Inspiration Award, and 7451 Avenger Robotics for the Chairman's Award win.
Thanks, Brian. Finally, let's bring in Griffin, who covered the 2 events spanning 2 days at Greater DC event number 2. How are these events this week up in DC?
All right. Well, DC's week 2 was the first event for many teams this year, but oh boy, did they show up with a bang. On day 1, sitting on top to nobody's surprise was 1629 Garrett Coalition. They quickly picked up 4472 Supernova, a team they won an event with in 2018, and 5587 Titan Robotics. This alliance easily beat the number 4 seed to secure their spot to the finals. On the other side of the bracket was the number 3 seed of 4242 Fresh Tech, 1731 Preston Valley Robotics, and 4638 Jagbots. While this team boasted an impressive showing in the semis by setting the high score of the event with 80 points, the last semis match saw Preston Valley destroy one of their swerve modules. Unable to repair it in time, they were forced to compete in the first finals match 2v3 and had to call in the backup bot 8217 Generals Robotics in the second match. They unfortunately couldn't keep up with the scoring power of the number 1 seed, leading to a repeat win for 1629 and 4472, and the first ever blue banner for 5587. Congrats to all 3 of those robots. On day 2, the pool of high scores was surprisingly lower, which led to 1111 Powerhawks, one of the winners from week 1, being a dominant force and quals all the way to their number 1 seed. They picked low score 449 Blair Robot Project as their first pick and rounded out their alliance with 116 Epsilon Delta. This alliance would go on to dominate, putting double-digit cargo scores in both the high and low goal, easily beating out the number 4 seed with this impressive showing. Coming to face him in the finals with a number 3 seed in Team 612 Chantilly Robotics, along with 2421 RTR Team Robotics and 3748 Ragnarok Robotics. The number 3 seed deployed their strategy of running 3748 on starvation defense, while 612 and 2421 go for double traversal. However, it wasn't enough to outscore the volume that the number 1 seed was producing, giving the win to the first alliance and the first ever event win in 116's 26-year history as a team. Again, I don't have the awards for this week, but congrats to week 1 event engineering inspiration winners 2363 Triple Helix and 2199 Robo Lions, and both getting the gold silver Kling Bling, and to chairman's winners 401 Copperhead Robotics and 1111 Powerhawks, with Powerhawks now getting a triple gold Kling Bling over these past 2 weeks.
Thanks, Griffin. Stick around and let's bring back Justin and Brian back in for this week's discussion for the U.S. Southeast region. Before we get to that, though, a couple quick things. Justin, I heard you had a pretty special weekend, and I can kind of see it from the background. Congratulations on being a Woody Flowers Award finalist. Something else happened, too, though. You got engaged. Congrats on that. Can you talk to us about that experience for just a second?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I was back behind in the pits, not expecting to win Woody Flowers. So I had to sneak around and the camera was looking up in the stands and I had to go back there and then sneak up behind her. You could kind of, if you watch the video, you can kind of see me sneaking back through the curtains, getting ready for that. Yeah, it was just a crazy experience this weekend.
That's amazing. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So, Griffin, can you quickly tell me which event or teams you might have your eye on for week 3?
Yeah, so definitely looking at the double Richmond events. All the teams that were competing at the first Richmond event are going to be there, but now they have all the first week kinks out. And also add on that 2363 Triple Helix, which is considered the best team right now in Chesapeake District. They're going to be at both days competing. So that's going to be a major, major threat to look out for.
Okay, cool. We'll be looking forward to that. So, guys, let's talk about the high hub versus the lower hub for our discussion. for this week. Griffin, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this topic specifically because looking at the events going on in Chesapeake, I'm actually seeing a lot more people score way more in the lower hub. That might be because of the tier level that Chesapeake events are at, but still, compared to us having still high shooters, I'm seeing low shooters just dominate on scoring all these points. Most of the matches that involved the cargo RP were because low shooters just pummeled the bottom. So I don't know if you guys had different experiences with this, but I feel like that going into district champs and worlds, low scores should not be disregarded because of this, because they can still spit out enough volume if they have the consistency with it.
Yeah, at the North Carolina event that I was covering, the highest scorers were definitely mostly scoring in the low goal. But at Electric City, definitely the highest scoring, and most of the ranking points that the bonus ranking points from cargo were scored in the high goal. I think it just kind of varies across the entire world, really.
So I'll go through and I'll make a comment on this. 4481 went into South Florida Regional last week as just a low goal robot, and they were able to put up consistent numbers anywhere between 15 to 19 balls scored inside of the lower hub. While here in Orlando this past weekend, when they swapped to just being a high goal robot, they were reaching anywhere just between like a consistent 10 to 15. But when it comes down to it, that's 30 something. You're looking at 20 to 30 points versus 10 to like 15 to 20 points, and just going into the lower hub. I mean, there is definitely a strategy where if you're going to play the ranking point game and you're just going to go through and run logos, just run them, because that's the fastest way to get the ranking point. You don't have to line up to shoot. You don't have to worry about a possible miss inside of the upper hub. While at the upper hub, that's just what you should be using in playoffs, just to go through and win the match if you need to go through and make sure you're putting up big points.
That was what our team discussed early on, was primarily go for low just to get the ranking points, but show a little bit that you can score high and use that high goal scoring during eliminations.
Yeah, that makes sense as a strategy to me too, where at the Kettering event that I was at in Michigan, I did see a bunch of high-ranked, low hub scoring robots that ended up ranking really high because they kept getting that ranking point consistently in and out. But in the eliminations, it definitely makes more sense to be able to score more points than to get more cargo in, as it's obviously worth lower in the low hub. So yeah, thanks guys, great discussion as always. We'll see you next week. Next up is the First in Michigan District event. We had 5 events happen in the Mitten State, including FiM District Milford event, Kettering University, the District Gull Lake, FiM District Rochester, and St. Joe. Our featured event this week comes from Milford, and Dan is bringing us the action from there, as well as Kettering number 2 and Gull Lake. Dan.
Milford certainly lived up to expectations with a super deep event this weekend. 55.56% of alliances would get the hangar bonus ranking point, and 29.17% would get the cargo ranking point. The average score of 52 points was 10 points above the world average and the highest event average in week 2. When the dust settled here, 67 was in first with 37 ranking points, and 72-11 was in a close second with 36 ranking points. 67, the hot team, would go on to pick 17-18 Fighting Pie and 830 the Rat Pack. They would cruise through quarterfinals, however would meet their match in the semifinals against the 5th seed Alliance, 43-62 CSPA Gems, 15-02 Technical Difficulties, and an absolute steal of a third pick in 862 Lightning Robotics. And unfortunately, I don't have hard scouting data for this event to confirm, but looking at component OPRs, the number 5 Alliance was actually favored to win this event due to their third pick in 862. They would use that to their advantage and use a 3 offensive robot strategy to face the number 1 Alliance with their more traditional 2 offense, 1 defense robot strategy. And in the first match, they would tie 95-95. However, the 5th Alliance would take it home, the 3rd tiebreaker. The number 1 alliance would come back in match 2 and take it to a tiebreaker. However, in that tiebreaker, the 5th alliance would put up a event high 114 points with their 3 offensive robot strategy and would win 114 to 105. They would go on to the finals to face the number 3 alliance of 503 Frog Force, 2834 Bionic Blackhawks, and 240 Tempest. The number 5 alliance continued to play their 3 offensive robot strategy, and the number 3 alliance would use a more typical 2 offensive, 1 defensive robot strategy in the finals, and it would go to 3 matches as well. However, the number 5 alliance would win in a 86 to 85 nail biter. It looked like the number 3 alliance started climbing a little early, which led to 862, scoring the last winning cargo undefended with 13 seconds to go, and everyone would end up climbing with a few seconds to spare. 1718 Fighting Pie would take home their 16th Chairman's Blue Banner, and 5712 Hemlock's Gray Matter would take home Engineering Inspiration for the 4th year in a row, excluding last year. A few fun facts about this event. This was the first time this year that neither the number 1 alliance nor the number 2 alliance would make it to the finals. The last time 4362 the Gems picked 862 Lightning was in 2019 at MSC on the Ford Field. They would win the Ford Field and would ultimately win the entirety of MSC. Once again, 862 was a really underrated 3rd pick at MSC. The last time 67 didn't make the finals of their opening competition was in 2017, and they would go on to win their division at Worlds and go to Einstein. And jumping up about 45 minutes to the north, we have Kettering 2. Team 70 More Martians would take number 1 here by a 6 ranking point gap and would pick up Team 1684 the Chimeras and 5235 Gears of Fortune for the first alliance. They would proceed without a hiccup, besides for a red card in quarterfinals 1, but other than that would be undefeated in match play to the finals. They would face the number 2 alliance in that finals, pretty standard 1v2 finals for this year, who was also undefeated in quarters and semis. Unfortunately for the number 1 alliance, 1684 had some technical difficulties come back up and plague them, and they would not be able to score. This led to a very defensive heavy finals where the number 2 alliance would win the first match 76 to 73 and would also win the second match 65 to 47. This would make the number 2 alliance of 3668 Trobots, 3534 House of Cards, and 5150 Hybrid Hornets to take home the gold, and the first seed alliance, which was Team 70, Team 1684, and Team 5335 to take home silver. 5509 Like a Boss from Midland would take home their first ever Chairman's Award, and Team 68 Trucktown Thunder would take home Engineering Inspiration. Now going over to the west side of the state, in Gull Lake. Gull Lake had the least amount of points scored out of any Michigan event this week. The top 4 teams were all within 3 ranking points of each other, but ultimately 4381 would take the first seed on the average match score tiebreaker. 4381, the Twisted Devils, would go on to pick 5275 Wired Cats and 4453 the Red Hot Chili Bots. And unlike Milford and Kettering, Gull Lake had absolutely 0 upsets. The number 1 and 2 seeds would win quite easily in the quarters and the semifinals to set up a 1v2 final. The original score for the first finals match was 86 to 71 for the first alliance. However, they received a red card, which would give the match to the number 2 alliance. They would then go to the second match, where the number 1 alliance pulled the win, in a little bit of a closer match, and it was 73 to 46, which sent it to the tiebreaker. Unfortunately, in the tiebreaker for the number 2 alliance, 1076, which was their defensive robot, would lose connection, leading to a rather lopsided 93 to 48 score and a win for the first alliance. Congratulations to 4381, 5676, and 4453 on the win, and congratulations to 4976, 5152, and 1076 on the silver. 4776 Scott Spots would take home Chairman's, and Team 85, Team Bob, would take home Engineering Inspiration.
Thanks, Dan. That Milford event was really good. Next, let's bring up Nick Jr., who's covering both the Rochester district event where he was at and St. Joseph. Nick, tell us what happened at Rochester first.
Thanks, Steve. Again, Nick Jr. back here, and I was at this event this past weekend at Rochester. So heading over to Oakland County to one of the new districts in the state of Michigan this year was the first in Michigan Rochester district held at Stony Creek High School. This event was a great one from the beginning. Although the agitator unfortunately broke after the first match and was about 45 minutes delayed going into qualification match 2, and FMS was running off a hotspot for nearly half of the day on Friday because the school denied an Ethernet connection. The event staff did a great job and provided some great experiences for these teams. Something to note here is that there were over 24 robots who had the ability to climb at this event, and the cargo bonus was achieved in 30% of the qualification matches. One of the main heavy hitters in Michigan, Team 3538, the Robo Jackets, took that number 1 seat early and really never looked back. Team 1506, Metal Muscle, got back to work real quickly after their semifinal exit of the Kettering District in week 1 and really looked sharp coming into Rochester. They would go on to seed second and be selected by 3538 as their first pick. The third alliance was captained by Team 3539, the Biting Bulldogs from Romeo, and they would actually be selected by the number 2 alliance, but declined Team 201, who was the captain of their 2 alliance, to create their own alliance. The number 3 captain, 3539, would go on to select Team 818, the Steel Armadillos. And the only upset in the quarterfinals, the only upset of the elimination rounds was in the quarterfinals when the 5 alliance captain, Team 4779, the Robo Sapiens, beat the number 4 alliance captain, Team 4130, the Blue Devils from Richmond. The third alliance would beat the second alliance in the semi, so I'm going to correct something. I actually just said there was 2 underdog wins here, and but the number 1 alliance would be ultimately the alliance to prevail in the finals here, and without losing a match into the elimination rounds. Chairman's was won by Team 201, the Feds from Rochester, and Engineering Inspiration was taken by Team 3538, the Robo Jackets from Auburn Hills, to secure that Kling Bling. Rookie All-Star was taken home by Team 8728, the Argonauts from Troy Athens High School. Moving over to the west side of the state, we travel over to St. Joseph High School, which was home to the St. Joseph District. Coming into this event, we finally got to take a look at the 2-time reigning world champion 2767 Strike Force from Kalamazoo. Their swerve robot that arguably was one of the teams to start the swerve revolution in FRC Robotics featured a multi-cargo auto, a turreted shooter, and pristine accuracy. This team would go on to seed number 1 at their first event of the year. They went on to select well-renowned Team 4003 Chisonics and Team 3452 Green Engineers. Strike Force's robot featured a very accurate shooter and complemented 2767 well. In the elimination rounds, 2767 Strike Force and their number 1 alliance were able to go through the quarters and semis fairly easy, but the finals would be no easy task. The number 3 alliance, captained by Team 2054 Tech Fights from Hopkins, selected Team 4327 Lancebot and Team 5065 Megahertz Robotics to round out their alliance. This number 3 alliance would be the alliance that would meet the number 1 in the finals, and this was a great set of 3 matches that we saw here. The number 1 alliance would take the first match in a pretty lopsided win, winning by nearly 40 points. But the number 3 seed would push it to a rubber in the second by a very small margin of just 3 points in match 2. In the end, it would be the number 1 alliance coming out on top, but only by a 12-point margin, so congrats to the number 3 alliance for nitty-gritty coming back there. Chairman's was taken home by Team 910, the Foley Freeze, and Engineering Inspiration was taken by Team 226, the Hammerheads from Troy. Important to note here that there were no rookie teams at this event, so no rookies were awarded here. Rookie awards were awarded here. Back to you, Steve.
Thanks, Nick. Stick around for our discussion, but first, I'm curious, what event or teams do you have your eye on in Michigan for week 3?
Yeah, so I guess the first one that I really want to take a look at is the Livonia district. We're finally going to get to see, I believe, 2337, the engineers who are there, who released their robot pretty early, I would say. And we're finally going to get to see them. I'm really looking out for 548 Robo-Slangs at that event as well. And then 3414 Hackbots, who I saw at Detroit, are also going to be at this event. So those are the kind of the 3 main teams that I'm going to be taking a look at here moving forward for this week.
Cool. So I'll be out at Livonia doing some game announcing. So if anyone sees me, come out and say hi. Our discussion this week, though, is do human players have enough to do? And what can FIRST do about it? I saw several Kobe shots from human players at Detroit week 1, at Kettering week 2, but a lot more at Kettering week 2. But after that, I don't see very much for them to do. You know, there's no way for cargo to get back to them to be able to shoot all game long if they change that rule. And I honestly, I don't even know how they can use the human load station. I guess, do robots push the cargo to them on the bottom and they load it up to any of them that has top loading, hoppers or whatever? I don't feel like this was well thought out enough, and that these poor human players just stand there for like 2+ minutes after their 15 seconds of fame. What do you think?
Yeah, so I guess one thing important to note too is that I think the original intention of it was that robots would be able to push cargo through the terminal and then be able to use some sort of top loader like you're describing. But I think one thing, and I totally agree with you that they frankly just don't have enough to do, and it kind of gets quite boring. But one thing that I've seen a lot of teams in Michigan do, especially some of our elite teams, is that they oftentimes are giving their human player a manual clicker. And we kind of talked about this in FRC Roundup last week, but they're actually counting how many cargo enter and exit the hub and are keeping track of that number to ensure that they're getting the cargo RP. As we've seen in the first 2 weeks, the sensors on the hub are not the greatest and have had significant issues. And we'll go into more detail about that later. But it's important to note that if you really want to ensure that you are getting that cargo RP, and not that FIRST is continuously working on the sensors, because I'm sure they are, but in the first couple weeks, that could be something you could have your human player do, just to ensure that you are continuing to get that in that sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Having them do that manually and then verifying with it and going over to the question box if needed.
Exactly.
Really good point.
And one thing I forgot to note too, I will be at the Greater Pittsburgh Regional this weekend. I'm on spring break, so a friend and I are going out to hang out with Team 3539, the Biting Bulldogs. So if you're not from Michigan and want to come say hi, or you are from Michigan, because there's going to be 3 Michigan teams there, feel free to come say hi. I'll be more than willing to chat with you, and looking forward to finally going to my first regional. So
cool. Thanks, Nick. Another great discussion. Up next, we have the South region, where we had 2 events. Our featured event was the Oklahoma Regional, and Zach will be bringing us this recap. Zach, what took place down at the Oklahoma Regional?
So the Oklahoma Regional took place this weekend at Fire Lake Arena in Shawnee, Oklahoma. This regional featured 43 teams from 5 different states, including Oklahoma, Colorado, Missouri, Louisiana, and Kansas. This event featured many familiar faces, including regional powerhouses from Colorado, Missouri, 1619 Upper Creek, 4499 Highlanders, 3284 Camden Laser, 4522 Team Scream, and 5801 CTC Inspire. As qualifications wrapped up, it would be these teams filling most of the top spots. However, it was 1619 who would rank first after going 10-0 in qualies thanks to their traversal climb and 3-ball auto. Yes, you heard it correctly. Only 10 qualification matches were played, as a Thursday night winter storm caused Friday play to be delayed by nearly 2.5 hours. Having won this same regional in 2019, Upper Creek was looking to replicate their past success and built an alliance featuring themselves alongside 4522 and 3160. This alliance was crafted around the power of the double traversal capability that 1619 and 4522 could display. They wasted no time. Alongside 3160's mid-level climb, they rode good shooting and a striking 36 in-game points to the finals. In the finals, they would match up against the 2-seeded alliance, featuring Captain 4256 Cyborg Cats and picks 4499 Highlanders and 3247 Robopack. These 3 teams used their extremely effective autos, smart defense, and 4499's traversal climb to punch their ticket to the finals in 4 clean matches. However, right before the finals were to begin, the second alliance had to request a backup bot, as 3247 suffered drivetrain damage in the semifinals and could not continue. 2718, Team OKC stepped in to take their place. After this quick adaptation, the second alliance did their best to upset the first seed powerhouse in the finals. With a strategy of zone prevention defense and a superior auto, they stood a chance. During the 2 matches, both alliances' scores stayed close, with 1619 and 4499 rivaling each other's shots from all around the field. However, 1619 and their partners responded well, and their superior in-game was too much to overcome, as the first alliance took home the blue banners after 2 matches. Congratulations to 1619 Upper Creek, 4522 Team Scream, and 3160 FROG Frog for their event win, and to 4256 Cyborg Cats, 4499 Highlanders, 3247 RoboPack, and 2718 Team OKC for their finalist performance. It would be unbecoming to not mention the winners of the Culture Awards. Congratulations to Team 3284 Camden Laser for earning the Regional Chairman's Award, their 9th in team history. A congrats also goes to Team 2341 Sprockets for winning the Engineering Inspiration Award, and Team 8711 Midnight Ostrich Runners for their Rookie All-Star win. A special congratulations goes out to Michael Taylor of 8711 for receiving the Woody Flowers Finalist Award as the mentor of a rookie team. The Oklahoma Regional definitely lived up to expectations and displayed some fantastic play from this part of the country, showing that the teams in the South can hang with anyone in Rapid React.
Thanks, Zach. Next up, we have Marco bringing us the action from the First in Texas District Channelview event. Marco, what happened down at Channelview?
Good evening, folks. Let's head down to the cozy hamlet of Channelview and the only fit district event that happened this weekend. All 36 teams were taking the field for the very first time, and there were surely some high expectations for a strong showing by many teams, though perhaps none shouldering more expectations than League City's own 118, the Robonauts. Also looking to grab some blue banner glory were 5414 Paradox, 5892 Energy Heroes, and 231 High Voltage. However, as qualification matches got underway, it was the relatively unknown Team 8177 Vector who caught people's attention as they got off to a red-hot start, winning 7 of their first 8 matches and picking up 5 bonus RPs in the process. Meanwhile, the White and Gold Wonder did not disappoint in the win column as they finished day 1 undefeated, despite some early performances not being quite to the level that we've all come to expect. However, when all of that qualification dust was finally settled, it was indeed Team 118, the Robonauts, that were sitting at the top of the standings, 11 RPs clear of their closest competitor. Team 118 would go on to invite 8177 Vector and the rock-solid Traversal Climb, as well as 8576 Golden Warrior Robotics to join that number 1 alliance. In the semifinals, we would see a small upset as the number 3 seed would knock out the number 2 alliance in some close matches to set up the final showdown. The finals were entertaining matches with a lot of cargo action and a lot of robots looking pretty strong, but ultimately it was decided by the climb power of the number 1 alliance who hit double traversals in each of those matches. Congratulations to 118 the Robonauts, 8177 Vector, and 8576 Golden Warrior Robotics on their blue banner. 118 now joins 6800 Viperbots Valor and 148 the Robo Wranglers in that undefeated and 18-0 district event club. Congratulations also in order to 5427 Steel Talons on their well-deserved Chairman's Award. That's it from Channelview.
Thanks, Marco. Let's bring Zach back for our discussion. But first, is there a specific event or teams that you're going to be paying close attention to this week in the South region?
I've really got my eyes on the First in Texas District Austin event. While most of the teams here have played, as there's been just a large smattering of Texas events so far, it'll be a really good chance to see a lot of teams interact with others that they haven't yet. And I think it's going to be a good show of how play in Texas has developed and what we'll end up seeing in the championship.
Awesome. So for our discussion this week, Zach, let's talk about the EveryBot, which originates from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, so the EveryBot was started in 2014 by Team 118. And this initiative exists to promote an affordable and elegant design that any team can utilize. It thus raises the floor of FRC competitions. So this year's EveryBot features a low scorer capable of holding 2 cargo at a time, and both a low and mid-level climber with a very clever rotating design that allows the users to climb on either side that they want to. And so the advantages of this EveryBot that it's given to rookie and veteran teams with low resources is that it allows them a cost-effective, simple robot to build that really just raises the floor of competitions and help us have teams that can be effective in any sort of play. I think one way that the EveryBot has really changed the scope of competitions this year is that it's been very simplistic. With its simplistic design, teams have been able to build it quickly and then get lots and lots and lots of drive practice, which has led to a lot of early success in the South of EveryBot teams, as they have more drive practice than a lot of other teams that we've seen.
Yeah, and obviously that's a super important thing, especially for lower resource teams. Building the robot, if you can get it built faster and you can spend a lot more time practicing driving, that's huge, because time on the field is super important. I love the Everybot. I've been following it since I first came into First, and which was in 2015, and it's always a great design. It's always incredible to see what they come up with, and I always look forward to their reveal of it. So this was a great topic. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So before we get to our international region recaps, let's bring in our producer Tyler to recognize our show sponsor and also to start our giveaway for this week.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. We'll be starting it in just a second. Yeah, we do have a giveaway from our friends coming in from the Thrifty Bot. As we mentioned, let's go ahead and put them up on screen on there. So Thrifty Bot, if you're not familiar with the Thrifty Bot, well, you should be, because they have a lot of thrifty products for you to check out on there. So it's going to be for a $25 gift card, once again, going to Thrifty Bot for anything on their site. A lot of teams have been checking out, I know, their telescoping tube kit, their vectored intake wheels that they have, but a lot of cool stuff they've been adding as well. Ronnie Donio has been a long friend of the show who owns Thrifty Bot. He does this on the side, if you can believe it or not. For everything he puts in. So thanks a lot to Thrifty Bot for the giveaway. And the keyword is going to be very thrifty, 2 different words. Very thrifty. We're not going to draw until about near the end of the show, just a heads up. But very thrifty will be the keyword. Type that in chat. Don't forget, you do need to be following the channel, and subscribers get some extra luck. Also want to give a big shout out to our show sponsors, Stryker Careers. Go ahead and check them out at careers.stryker.com if you are looking for a great internship, co-op, or career. They have thousands of careers available all over the world. I decided to type in robotics today just to see what they had. And look, if you want to go work out in Australia, they have stuff for you, field-based as well too, which I think is pretty cool. But remote, on-site, in-person, hybrid, Stryker has something for you no matter where you go. And if you're looking at getting into an internship at Kalamazoo, Michigan, their corporate headquarters, they even cover your housing as well too. So very cool with that. Thanks a lot again to Stryker for supporting First Updates Now. We truly could not do First Updates Now without Stryker. So make sure, if you're interested in looking for something, take a look at careers.stryker.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, Stryker's an amazing company and an amazing sponsor. I've been out to their facility. It's super awesome. So before now, we head out to our international events, where we have 4 events to cover, including Grace covering the Southern Cross Regional in Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia, ISR Districts 1 and 2 in Israel, brought to us by Tyler, and finally Chris with the Regional Monterrey in Mexico. Grace, start us off with what happened in the Gong this past weekend.
Well, if you end up working at Stryker in the future in Australia, you can check out the next edition of the Southern Cross Regional. But this year's Southern Cross Regional was Australia's only regional for the season, with only Australian teams competing. And while I haven't confirmed this, I believe that's likely because of the ongoing pandemic and travel restrictions. Many familiar faces and several new rookies were at the event, and with 28 teams competing, everyone got plenty of time on the playing field. After 13 bot-breaking rounds of qualification matches, it was none other than 46-13, the Barker Redbacks, on top with a ranking score of 2.76. In alliance selection, they went down and picked up rank number 4 as their first pick. That's 65-10, Pimble Pride. And then they grabbed a 58-76 Artemis to round out the alliance. In quarterfinals, this number 1 alliance quickly defeated number 8, 71-21 and 86-13. Their semifinals matchup versus the number 5 alliance was a bit closer. Still, the number 1 alliance pulled out ahead, 90-55 and 89-59. In finals, they faced the number 2 alliance of 47-74, the Drop Bears, 55-84, Icy Robotics, and 64-32, the St. Cathodes. The number 1 alliance wasn't easily stopped, however, pulling out a win in both matches, 82-68 and 82-55, earning the blue banner. Consistent performance, scoring cargo high, and climbing to the traversal rung really cemented the victory throughout playoffs for this alliance. When a traversal climb is worth more than 7 cargoes scored in the high goal and teleop, having a robust climber is worth the investment. The number one alliance showed solid strategy in alliance selection, looking for other bots that complemented their abilities, helping to cover just in case a robot couldn't make a climb or was under heavy defense. And that's a good reminder for those of you who might unknowingly find yourself in that number one or number two ranked position. Rankings don't always tell the full tale, so make sure to investigate a team's true capabilities before you add them to your pick list. Before I wrap this up, I want to congratulate the other teams that won big at this event. Team 5985, Project Bucephalus, with the Regional Chairman's Award, and 4788 Can't Control with Engineering Inspiration. With the history of Championship Chairman's Award wins at this event, I'm excited to see how these two teams compete at Champs.
Thanks, Grace. Next up, we have Tyler covering two events in Israel, some high-scoring matches out there. Tyler, tell us about them.
ISR 1 took place last week after our event recaps, but we do need to cover this awesome event. There's no doubt that out of the 28 teams, that all eyes are on team number 1690 Orbit, who had, in my opinion, the best 2021 robot out there, and with their recent release video had an incredible looking 2022 robot as well. But ISR 1 had some other great teams attending, including 1574, 1577, 2096, 2230, 2231, 3211, and 3316, amongst others. But we need to be honest here, it wasn't even close. 1690 had a ranking score of 3.25 to take the number one seed, and the number two seed would go to 1577, who had a ranking score of 1.91. That's a 16 rank score difference between the number one and number two seeds. 1690 would go on to take 1577 Steampunk along with 6104 Desert Eagles, who would get replaced in the finals by 6741. The semifinals were the closest matches for the number one alliance, but wow, quarterfinal match 5 saw the world high score of 146 points with only one robot for the Red Alliance, 1577, going out to get to the traversal climb, and no other robots even climbing for Red. Seriously, 1690 is absolutely nuts. I think many have bated breath for what 254 is going to bring, but I gotta say, after seeing their bot last year and this year, this could be the changing of the guard for best robot in the world. Congrats to the winners, along with the Chairman's Award going to 2096 RoboActive and Engineering Inspiration going to team number 5614 Team Sycamore. On to ISR 2, where there was a star-studded cast of 28 teams from Israel, including 2212, 3075, 3339, 5987, and 7039. 3339 Bumblebee might have been the early on favorite, but it would actually be 5987 Galaxia, taking it by one ranking point with the number one seed, where they would draft 3339 and also 1580, the Blue Monkeys, into their alliance. The number one alliance wouldn't meet much resistance until the finals, where they squared off against the number two alliance, captained by 7848 8-Bit, 3075 Hadreen Team, and 4416 Skynet. This one would go to 3 matches, with match number 1, Red having more teleop scoring, but Blue just was a little shy with 2 traversal climbs, where Red would take it 77-72. Match 2, Red Alliance would take the early lead in auto and in teleop, but wouldn't be able to build enough buffer with only a 10-point lead, and their high and mid-run climbers would not overcome the 2 traversal climbs of Blue, and Blue takes match number 2, 72-65. Match 3 actually saw Blue take the lead in auto as Red missed several shots. Going into the final 30 seconds, Red only had a 10-point lead, which lost them a match just prior, but unfortunately for Blue, 3075 was only able to climb the mid-rung, and a couple last-minute shots by 3339, along with a high climb by 5987, sealed the deal as the number one alliance would win finals 3 and the event 77-55. Congratulations to the winners, and to 2212 the Spikes for taking the Chairman's Award, and 6168 Al-Zahrawi for taking the Engineering Inspiration Award at these events. Looking forward to more Israel events coming up soon. It's going to be some great matches coming up.
All right, next up we have Chris, who's going to bring us our Monterrey Regional, or Regional Monterrey. Chris, tell us about what happened down there.
Yes, the Regional Monterrey! I can't roll my R's. You're going to have to deal with that. But we had 40 teams descending into Monterrey here in Mexico. Well, I guess not here. I'm not there. But this event would see 4635 Bot Busters ranking first, creating one powerful alliance. Their first pick would be 7421 Overture, and round off their alliance with Team 5948 Robotics. We would also see Red Alliance Seed 1 versus Blue Alliance Seed 2. Which was made up of captains 3478 Lambot, 6348 Horus, and rounding off their team with 5887 Pretor. Getting right into finals, it was seed 1 versus 2. There were no upsets at the event. And coming out of auto in both of the finals matches, seed 1 red would just have a huge lead in cargo, just scoring it like no tomorrow in those matches. The robots were driving their wheels off their robots. Literally, there was a wheel laying on the floor. But Alliance 1 would hold the win all the way to the end, pretty much no issue. Blue was unable to climb at the end and try to gain back some points there. So congrats on the winning seed, Red Alliance number 1, 46-35, 74-21, and 59-48. And also congratulations to 47-75 Aztec Robotics on the chairman's win.
Finally, this week is our West region, where we had 4 events, including the Orange County Regional, the Ventura County Regional, the Arizona North Regional, and PNW District Wilsonville event. Up first, we have Aiden bringing us the Orange County Regional and Ventura County Regionals out in California. Aiden, tell us about what went down out west this weekend.
Thanks, Steve. Well, Costa Mesa, California welcomed 42 teams into the Orange County Fairgrounds for an excellent weekend of robotics action. Favorites loading into the event were the Pride of Irvine 3476 Code Orange with their newest creation, Eclipse, Hall of Famers 987 High Rollers from Las Vegas, Denver's own 1339 Angelbotics, and 5199 the Robot Dolphins from outer space, who had previously put up a strong showing at Wainami Port the week before, getting knocked out in the semis to the eventual winners. Though eyes were on many teams with their robot teasers and jazzercise homages, there were still quite a few exciting first-time showings at the event, namely on the awards game front. Team 1868, the Space Cookies, came down from Mountain View, while more local names like 3309 Friarbots and 4201 Vitruvian Bots threw their hats in the ring as well. 4400 Robotics from Mexico had also shown up in full force at Wainami Port, and the international presence would be doubled with 8071 R3D3 Mersin from Mersin, Turkey. Nobody managed to sneak through the quals unscathed, as most everyone had at least 2 losses and a tie, showing how balanced this event could be and how much chaos this game had to unpack. Standing on top of the rubble would be 3476, turning their 9-1-1 win-loss record with 1 tie into a whopping 3.45 ranking score. Their first pick would be 987, the only other team at the event who had a 3-point ranking average, or above a 3-point ranking average at 3.09. Along for the ride would be 3952 Troy Robotics, somehow surviving the Serpentine at rank 15. The next few picks would not be the usual suspects, however. Angelbotics moved into the second captain's position and picked up 7157 Mubotics, a team that had previously never been in the top 8 of an event and only just started recently ranking around 10th at their off seasons, but they'd put up a dominant performance noticed by scouts and Twitch chat alike. The partners would also be new to the upper seed. 8521 Cyber Lions from Westminster, California, were a rookie team just getting their feet wet in FRC, but would soon be on an inner bracket adventure. No major upsets in the quarterfinals, with the exception of the 5th seed overtaking the 4th, and every set only taking 2 rounds to complete. But the second versus third semifinals saw some of the tightest score lines in a 3-round set. The first going 93-90 in favor of 2, with 1 auto high hub shot making the difference. Third seed managed to push it to a rubber 82-96 in match number 2, but would eventually be bested in round 3, 81-79. Though the scoreline indicated it was 1 high shot that made the difference, it was a complete back and forth between auto shots, tele-up cargo, climbs, and fouls that made this set truly anyone's game. This set definitely pushed the second alliance to its limits, as 8521 had to be substituted out for 3020 S-embled going forward into the finals. Unfortunately, this would only go so far, as the 1v2 finals went the usual fashion this year, with scores of 114-97 and 118-105, both in favor of red. Congrats to all the winners, who I believe all qualify for champs with 987's Hall of Fame status from 2016, and to the finalists, who put on an intense showing over the whole weekend. The awards game settled out a little more predictably. 4201 Vitruvian Bots would receive the Chairman's Award for the 4th time in their team's history, while 1868 the Space Cookies took home engineering inspiration for the first time in 11 years. And though we all hope to see Robo Lions in Houston off of their rookie all-star win and a priority waitlist, they'll need to spend some time this season building up a bigger trophy case between rookie all-star, highest rookie seed, finalist, and all the cling bling that's sure to come their way in the future. Next verse, same as the first, with a 40-team pool and a main breaker curse, the Ventura Regional took place in Port Hueneme, repeating the venue, hosts, and predicted outcomes from the regional the week before. There was a NorCal takeover at this event, an invasion, some may say, with about a fifth of the teams present hailing from the Bay Area. 44-14 took the top spot in Tolkien-esque fashion, marking the return of the king from the previous week. Joining them on the number 1 alliance was 359 Hawaiian Kids, another returning powerhouse, and 5089 the Robo Nerds. The number 2 represented some of the best in the Bay with 5419 Berkelium partnering with Team 8, Pally Robotics. An interesting decision as they passed up on the 3rd-seeded captain of 2135 Presentation Invasion, who would take 3512 Spartatronics as their alliterative allies. It was a brutal quarters for everyone involved as the number 1 and number 3 alliances led dominant victories, while the number 2 and number 4 were pushed to their limits in their third matches. Though the number 1 alliance breezed on to the finals, the number 2 alliance saw a disabled robot 2 matches in a row. The number 3 alliance was red carded in their second semifinals match for their defender causing the incident, but not the first. In semifinals 3, however, the number 3 alliance indisputably put up a strong enough showing to cause the upset and face the number 1 in the finals. The finals were a bit of a blowout as High Tide would continue their undefeated streak throughout the weekend and take home their second blue banner of the season, qualifying their partner for the wild card. 359 Hawaiian Kids also received a double cling bling, earning the Chairman's Award at the event, which in turn generated yet another wild card pushed over to the finalist captains, as there was no rookie all-star at the event. 3256 Warrior Borgs from San Jose would also earn a spot, winning their second EI ever. Congratulations to all of the winners, and a special shout out to finalist captain 2135 Presentation Invasion, who we hope to see at Houston. Back to you, Steve.
Thanks, Aiden. Up next, we have Alex, who's covering the Arizona North Regional. Alex, how did that event in Flagstaff, Arizona go?
At the Arizona North Regional this weekend, there were 36 teams competing. As one of the 2 Arizona events, most of the teams were from the Southwest, but 2 teams made it all the way from Idaho to Flagstaff, Arizona. Coming into the event, 2122 was one of the favorites to win. They've been to several of the Arizona regionals in the past and have had a strong showing each time. I think they even won the Arizona North Regional in 2016, were finalists in 2018. They proved that they could do it again. They came out of qualification matches in the first seed, and they were undefeated heading into the eliminations. The Taters picked the second-seeded team for their first pick, Team 114 Eagle Strike from Los Altos, California, and Team 1726 the Nerds for their second pick. The first seed alliance was able to win all of their matches except for their first semifinals match against the fifth-seeded alliance, captained by 3853 Pridetronics, and featuring my alma mater, Team 4183 the Pit Buckets. Shouts out to you guys, did great this weekend. They lost this match, in part because of some issues that 114 was having that caused them to miss the match. They seem to be having some reliability problems during the eliminations, but this did not prevent them from making it to the finals, where they played against the number 3 alliance, captained by 4068 Robotics, with 3200 Rapticon as their first pick and 8087 Cougar Pride as their second pick. The finals matches were close, but the number 1 alliance was able to win the event and take home a blue banner. Congratulations to all the teams that competed in Flagstaff this weekend, and of course special congrats for 498 for the first in-person Chairman's Award. I think they had won the San Diego Chairman's Award virtually back in 2020. It's the first time that they've won the award in person. To 2486 for their Engineering Inspiration Award, and to newcomers 8745 Robe Eagles for their Rookie All-Star Award. Congrats to all teams, and now back to you.
Thank you, Alex. Now let's bring in Grace back in to talk about the PNW District Wilsonville event. Grace, thanks for sticking around. What happened up in the Pacific Northwest this weekend?
Moving a little closer to my neck of the woods, the Pacific Northwest District Wilsonville event in Wilsonville, Oregon, this weekend was a who's who of PNW household names, including 1540 the Flaming Chickens, 997 Spartan Robotics, and 2990 Hotwire of Oregon. Visiting from up north in Washington were 2046 Bare Metal, and from just across the Oregon border, 2471 Team Mean Machine. All the way from Alaska, visiting our wonderful forested state of Oregon, was 568, the Nerds of the North. After the end of 12 rounds of qualification matches, it was 2990 Hotwire coming out on top with a ranking score of 2.83. In selection, they picked up ranked number 2, 2046 Bare Metal, and finally, 753, the High Desert Droids. While they were able to easily win their quarterfinals matchup, 76-29 and 104-42, the rest of the playoffs didn't go so quickly. They dropped the first match of the semifinals in a close 50-57 result, with 2046 losing connection near the beginning of the match and not regaining it until there just wasn't enough time for them to climb at the end. However, the number 1 alliance pulled out 2 more wins, moving them on to the finals. There, they faced the number 2 alliance, consisting of 36-36 the Generals, 1540 Flaming Chickens, and 568 Nerds of the North. It was another close loss, 89-99 in the first match, but the number 1 alliance pulled out 2 more wins to be crowned the victors of the event. Congrats also to Engineering Inspiration winner 2635, the Lake Monsters, and to 2471 Team Mean Machine with their Chairman's Award win, making that the 5th overall in their team's history.
Thanks, Grace. Stick around again. Let's bring back Aiden for our discussion topic for this week. Our discussion for this week is about fouls and what is and isn't being called in this early season. I guess, Aiden, let's start with you. What are you seeing?
Well, we had talked a little last week about what defense was looking like, and I had made a comparison to most people going for the Stone Soldier meta of just not moving. And this week was a lot more Apex Predator going in for the kill, specifically a lot of trippage of main breakers. We saw quite a few incidents at Ventura, unfortunately, where the alliances were knocking over robots. In this clip right here, you can see 5818 gets tipped over. And if you actually want to go back a little, Tyler, and show the incident, they lose some of their footing trying to play defense, and they get in the mix of 3 red robots, and they get passed around, tossed around, knocked over. They're actually starting to recover, then someone just gets underneath and trips them. And astonishingly, this gets called as a clean match. Which, intent or not, that's fine. But there are some contacts on the robot that's fallen, and I'm curious, what are the fouls around this? Because I would have to reread it, but I seem to remember in the past teams have gotten fouls or cards for something like that. And then the alliance, the Red Alliance in this case, actually becomes the victim in the next one, where another robot drives up on top of, I think it's 5419 Berkelium and hits their main breaker. Again, intent is hard to declare, and it's in this first one, it's hard to determine whether or not they had actually hit the main breaker or if there was just a reset. I can't even see the RSL here. But in the second match of the semifinals, the same thing happens again. Berkelium goes down and out. And so, main breaker placement aside, it's interesting that this doesn't get called consistently. I'm confused why Berkelium here, their main breaker does get tripped. It's a defensive incident, but this is something that I'm curious why this would be a red cardable offense, but not the tripping of 5818, right? Because even though they are a little top heavy, there is very clearly a robot involved in that incident. So I'm just confused where the rest are standing at, and Ventura seemed to have a lot of really inconsistent calls. I wasn't particularly happy about. Grace, I don't know if you noticed any of the same.
I don't think the event I was watching had quite the same level of inconsistency. I spent most of my weekend watching Arizona North, which did have a fair amount of fouls, I noticed. In fact, I believe in the semifinals, one team was even red carded. It was a compound yellow card that caused them to be disqualified for the match. And unfortunately, it wasn't announced what the yellow card was for, and I wasn't able to follow up and find that out. But there were a couple different situations like that. As a team who's had their robot maliciously flipped before, not this season, but in a previous year, it kind of hurts to see maybe consequences not happen where they should, or at least see it enforced unfairly. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing what the team update is this week, and hopefully some clarification on some of the rules so that next week and throughout the rest of the season, the calls are much more consistent and fair.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see an update that speaks to that and see a little bit more consistently as well. I really just watched Michigan events, but the last 2 weeks I saw, to me, completely different styles of refereeing. Detroit, things were called fairly consistently. Kettering, it seemed like it was not quite as consistent. Now, maybe I was up close and personal in Detroit, and Kettering I was watching on stream, so that might have been why. But a lot of things that were inconsistent, in my opinion, and I really like to see that consistency pick up. It's one thing if you're going to call something, make it the same call all the way across the world or what have you, and week in and week out. If you're not going to call something, same thing. So I don't like the inconsistency. It gives advantages to some teams and disadvantages to other teams. And, those where that robot got tipped, that being called a clean match that's egregious in my opinion. That definitely should have been a red card. So
I wouldn't know about a red card, but I think it's interesting how the fouls on TBA are shown as 0 across the board for that one. It's a perfectly clean match through and through. Cards aside, fouls aside, but nothing was called.
Yeah. I don't know how you don't call that at least a yellow card. I mean, or some sort of foul. Granted, they were already starting to tip, but if you make contact and they go the rest of the way over, I've seen in the past where that's called. It happened to 1684 at Worlds one year in 2019 or 18 or 19. We were driving by, barely made contact with a robot that was already kind of tipping on their own and touched them, and that we got a red card for that match and 0 points. So that was in quarterfinals, I think. So yeah, I definitely want to see some consistency in the rules calling, and I hope to, like Grace said, that we speak to that in the team update this week. So thanks, guys. Great topic. Now, before we wrap up, let's bring back producer Tyler for our giveaway from ThriftyBot.
Yeah, thanks again. Once again, the giveaway is going to be a $25 gift card from our friends at thethriftybot.com. So you have to type in very thrifty. Let's go ahead and draw our winner for that. Hey, Chicken Skunk 100 has won the giveaway. Congratulations. We see Chicken Skunk a lot in chat, and your loyalty pays off. So congrats to that. Make sure to reach out with your email. So it will be a digital gift card sent to you, and congratulations. And thanks again to ThriftyBot for their support.
Totally rigged. So thank you for tuning in to FRC Recap for week 2 of the Rapid React season. If you're watching live, stay tuned for FRC Roundup for our open table discussion on Rapid React for this week and beyond. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help with help fund with a Twitch subscription or donation. Your support really helps us to continue to make great content. Don't forget, you can watch FRC Recap archived at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow. On behalf of producer Tyler Olds and all of our fun correspondents, I'm Steve Londo. Thanks for watching, and good luck to all teams competing in week 3 and beyond. We'll see you next week on FRC Recap.
Thanks to Stryker Careers for their support in this video. First alumni and mentors are making Stryker a top priority for their internships and careers. That's because Stryker knows that those in first are the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. If you want to help make the world a better place by creating life-saving medical devices and technology, get started at careers.stryker.com. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow, and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.